Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Picture Book Parade. I am Ronny Khuri, Books for Youth, Senior Editor at Booklist. My pronouns are he and him. And before we begin, I will go over some technical details. Links to today's slide presentation and title list were included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. So to download them, please open that email, scroll to the bottom, and click on the links located there. You can also download the slides and title list by copying the URLs on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble, please contact us at webinars@booklistonline.com. If you're in the audience, you are in listen-only mode, but we do welcome any questions that you might have. So on the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or if you need technical assistance, just click Q&A and type your message into the box that pops up. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions, and we can pass along all other questions to today's panelists, and they'll be able to follow up with you after the webinar. Booklist offers closed captioning on all of our webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar mentioned earlier. From there, you can select show or hide subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting subtitle settings. And finally, Booklist expects all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. So as a reminder, anyone who violates this standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. And today we have the pleasure of hearing from Miriam Morkish, Content Strategist at Capstone, Ellen Myrick, President and Chief Marketer at Publisher Spotlight, Colette Perry, Marketing Associate at Charlesbridge Publishing, Aaron Alladin, Associate Editor at Pajama Press, and Meg Gartner, Senior Editor at North Star Editions. So let's kick things off with Miriam Morkish. Miriam is a content strategist at Capstone. She has her master's degree in children's literature from the University of Cambridge, and when she's not dreaming up new books, she is crocheting sweaters for her dog, who hates them. Take it away, Miriam.
Thank you. Hi, y'all. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Miriam Morkish. I'm a content strategist at Capstone, and I'm excited to show off some of our new picture books this year. So Capstone is a leading educational publisher for digital solutions, children's books, and literacy programs. We believe that learning is for everyone, and our learners and readers deserve books and resources that reflect them and their interests, abilities, cultures, families, traditions, and inspire them to be curious and informed about the world around them. So we will start with some new releases from January 2023, this past January. And the first one is A Bad Case of the Almosts. So Abby has a bad case of the almosts. She almost got the last cookie. She almost finished cleaning her room. She almost got to be first in line. She almost got 100% on her test. Almosts are ruining her life. To combat this plague of almosts, Abby employs the scientific method. So her question is, can almosts be good and bad? And her hypothesis is almosts are always bad. She decides to observe. At school, the next day, she almost gets hit in the face with a soccer ball. This is useful. And then later, she was almost too scared to jump off the diving board into the pool, but not quite. So this is another good almost, because jumping off diving boards is fun. Readers get to follow Abby through this book as she learns that an almost isn't always the worst thing in the world. Janet Sumner Johnson is the author of this. She also wrote Help Wanted Must Love Books and Braver Than Brave. And she brings us another wonderful picture book with the important lesson that perspective and attitude maybe have a little more weight than we initially thought. The back of the book also has a decision tree, so readers can practice dealing with setbacks and changes in plans all on their own. Next, we have Benford Draws a Blank. The main character, Benford, receives a canvas for his birthday, a huge one, and it's full of possibilities, so he has to make it just right. And just when he's about to make the perfect piece of art, Benford's mind goes blank. Anxious about making mistakes, Benford looks to his art books, his sketch pad, his cat and dog, the outdoors, and eventually goes to bed to try again tomorrow. Fed up with his work in the morning, Benford starts throwing paint on the canvas, smearing and smudging it around in an abstract masterpiece. You'll have to read the book to see what he ends up creating, but this text is a great one for young perfectionists and those who have historically been averse to the growth mindset. It's also a book for anyone who's felt challenged, creatively or otherwise, and the back matter provides some tools for overcoming artist's block. The entire style of this book is highly original and entertaining, and it fits the message of the text perfectly. Next, we have Yoshi's Big Swim. This picture book follows the true story of a loggerhead turtle named Yoshi, who was injured by a boat propeller, rescued, rehabilitated, and returned to the ocean. After making friends with everyone before her release, she was equipped with a tracker, and Yoshi was tracked swimming from Cape Town, South Africa, 22,000 miles over about 2 years to Western Australia, which is the longest and farthest any one animal has been tracked traveling. The back matter has more information on Yoshi and loggerhead turtles for readers to learn more. I love the illustration style in this book. I think Kaya, the illustrator, has such a knack for setting and character, and she really brings Yoshi to life. This book has a through line of conservation and human influence on the planet, but it strikes a hopeful tone, and the author, Mary Wagley-Kopp, chooses to focus instead on how people can come together to protect animals and the planet instead of how they can destroy or harm it. And now we will shift to some forthcoming titles that will hit the shelves this coming August. So the first one is Books Aren't for Bears. This book actually ends up disproving the title, as you might have guessed from the illustration. At the beginning, we meet a content bear, and when he discovers a book and learns to read, he's no longer content. He needs more. After traveling to the city on a bicycle, he's turned away from the books in schools and the books in bookshops, but the place he's welcomed, though, is the public library. This book is a simple ode to the library and its radical practice of lending books to those who want and need them with no expectations or strings attached. Other than that, you do have to return the books. This title truly embodies Capstone's core belief that reading and learning is for everyone, even woodland creatures and those on the outskirts and in the margins. Moving and Grooving to Fillmore's Beat is a picture book and the first one in existence about the Fillmore district in San Francisco, California. This neighborhood was one of the few left intact after the 1906 earthquake. Historically housing for Jewish immigrants, the area started to become a hub of Black, Japanese, and Mexican community and creativity, became a beacon of inclusivity and cosmopolitanism, and the district and venue appealed to and welcomed creatives that are now household names like Maya Angelou, Carlos Santana, and Etta James. There's more information on the history of Fillmore and the people who lived there in the back of the book, but this picture book is a love letter to Fillmore as well as a plea for a world that can be inspired by its legacy of intentional coexisting, mingling, and learning among and from people different to us. Rachel Werner, the author, is on the faculty of the Loft Literary Center here in Minneapolis, where I live, as well as the Lighthouse Writers Workshop in Denver and the Hugo House in Seattle. On this book, she says, quote, "With the United States currently at a pivotal moment in regard to anti-racism initiatives and decolonization efforts, the need for more books written by authors who identify as part of a marginalized community is unlikely to be a passing trend. Educators are being held accountable to present more inclusive materials to students of all ages, especially those which are more accurately reflecting American history through a diverse lens." And that is exactly what this book is trying to do. Next is Who Made This Mess? Bit of a tone shift. It's an absolute trip of a book. Reading it, I never knew what was going to happen next. So a farmer notices some disorganization and the occasional mess around the farm. When he goes to investigate the cause and potential culprit, readers learn to expect the unexpected. The missing carrots from the decimated carrot patch, for example, are the result of a carrot cake baking spree that the alligator is on. Mud splattered all over is because of a giraffe who slipped and fell and ruined her new dress. All the messes in the book are hinting at a surprise party at the end of the book, which is thrown just for the readers to give them a nice, satisfying ending. Laura Gale breaks the fourth wall and draws attention to the conventions of reading and storytelling. She takes readers' expectations and pokes fun at everything we thought we knew. This is a book for promoting imagination and fun, and it's also a book for encouraging problem solving and critical thinking. Laura Gale's The Hiking Viking received star reviews from Kirkus, School Library Journal, and Forward Reviews, and her book Odd Beasts was an ALA Notable Children's Book for 2022. This is another classic Laura title. It's funny, it's self-aware, and it trusts readers to raise their eyebrows and exercise their laugh boxes. And last, we have My Sister Daisy. This was released in hardcover in fall 2021, and we are welcoming a paperback into the world this coming fall. This is a book I'm really proud to have published. The narrator, Daisy's older brother, loves being an older brother. These siblings do everything together, they're best friends. And then one day, Daisy tells her family that she's a girl. There was a little mistake earlier when they thought she was a brother, but she's a sister, and her name is Daisy. Daisy's brother is a little scared that things will change in their relationship, and the family overcomes some challenges as they get attention for having a trans child. At the end, though, Daisy's brother knows that they'll always be best friends no matter what. This book is inspired by and dedicated to the author Adria Carlson's children, Oliver and Rose. One moment that I especially love that she incorporated from real life is when Daisy chooses her name. This is a quote. She says, "My name is Daisy, like the flower, because flowers are beautiful. I want a beautiful name." End quote. And this is exactly what Adria's daughter Rose said when she chose her name, which Adria reveals in the author's note. She continues in the author's note, quote, "When I went looking for literature to support my son in his new role as brother to a transgender sister, I found it lacking. When a sibling was present in a picture book about gender transition, they teased or questioned the legitimacy of the change, even if they eventually learned to accept it. I didn't want my son to see the wrong models in these stories or assume that he was the bad guy in our story. That's what inspired me to write this book, our family's story. While Daisy and her bravery in expressing her gender are at the heart of it, I also want to acknowledge that children like my daughter are part of a larger family web, that there are reverberations throughout. Siblings also need direction on how to support their new sibling's gender identity, and they may need some time to adjust." End quote. This book was an NCSS 2022 Notable Social Studies trade book, and it comes with a downloadable educator's guide with tips and suggestions for before, during, and after reading, discussion questions and writing prompts, associated Common Core and Anchor standards, and relevant social and emotional learning frameworks. I'm really excited to see what new life this title has in paperback. I think that's all from me. This last slide has where you can find Capstone on social media to keep up with us and our books and authors, and then some contact information if you have any questions or want to follow up on anything after this. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks again and enjoy the rest of the webinar.
Thanks, Miriam. Up next, we will hear from Ellen Myrick. Ellen began Publisher Spotlight 15 years ago to promote and market independent and international children's book publishers. She recently co-chaired the IBBY Regional Conference in Nashville and has presented at ALA, ABA, and regional conferences. You can catch her on kidlit.tv with Rocco Stano for seasonal showcases featuring the highlights from 20+ publishers. Follow at Pub Spotlight on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Pinterest for more diverse, inclusive, and beautiful books from around the world for children and teens. Thank you for being here, Ellen.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. So first up, we have Nosy Crow, which is a British publishing powerhouse who is launching their new US company with this clever, we can move on to the next slide. And oh, so fun. Oh, to the next slide. Let's just keep on going. There we go. Now, stop there. Yes. With this clever and oh, so fun counting book in May. I predict How to Count to One will be a mainstay for story times because it does that thing that is so hard to do when you have way too young people coming to story time. You know what I mean, right? You have kids that are toddlers all the way up to 3 and 4, and this book can speak to all of them. So let's go look at some of the interior pages here. So hello, welcome to a fun new counting book. Are you ready to start counting? Let's start with something nice and easy. Do you know what an apple looks like? Good. Simply count how many apples you see. And now you are all saying one. Let's move on to the next slide. Correct one now for something bigger. How many elephants? Next slide. That's right, just one. Now, how about this? How many sausages do you see? Yeah, okay. You see what they did there? So much fun. As we progress, an unreliable narrator directs us to count one item, but each spread has incrementally more things to count. If you have an overachiever in this group, then show them the end papers, and spoiler alert, there are 100 items there. So that is How to Count to One from Nosy Crow. Next from Nosy Crow, we have Granny Came on the Empire Windrush, which builds on living history projects. You know how that happens in school where kids are supposed to come as somebody, famous from history. And this poor kid just can't figure out who to come because all the good ones have been taken. So she talks to her granny about who she should come. And her granny shares the story of how she emigrated from the Caribbean to the UK and tells her about that whole journey. And she realizes her granny was so brave to do this. And as she learns more about the story, she decides she is going to come as her granny, and even carries the same suitcase her granny carried on that day. It is the 75th anniversary of the Empire Windrush's arrival in England, and this is a perfect way to celebrate that story that I'd never heard before. Maybe you had, but it was new to me. Next up, let's travel across the world all the way to Australia so that we can talk about Chihiro Takeuchi, a Japanese author illustrator. You know her from her work with from Whose Bones Are Those, that was done by Candlewick. And here we have a journey through time, through the day, but also in communities. So as you see, the bottom of each level, it is a business, and the second level is the living area, and the top level is a creative space. So we look at the clock at the top of each of the home, and we can follow what's happening throughout the day with all that, which is just so mesmerizing, can be used on so many different levels. So that is just an amazing story from Chihiro Takeuchi, and it's from Bird Books. So, and this is incredible cut paper art, because I say that because here's another one with amazing cut paper art. This is Watch Me Bloom from Lantana Publishing in the UK. Krina Patel Sage did My Mindful A to Zen. And here we see beautiful flowers given their own special haiku. So the perfect book to welcome spring, to welcome Poetry Month, and to serve as inspiration for kids to write their own haikus. So also, is this not the prettiest back matter you've seen? I mean, come on, it's gorgeous. So that is Watch Me Bloom, a bouquet of budding nature. So here we go on to the next book, which is Henry the Snail from Albatross, who is based in the Czech Republic. You didn't think you were going to see a book from the Czech Republic today. So here's Henry. Henry is just like every other snail, or is he? As a matter of fact, Henry doesn't have any slime, which is kind of a problem when you're a snail. There are things you just can't do, but he learns there are also some things he can do because he doesn't have slime. This is such gorgeous art, and I love the way that it communicates this differently abled snail who decides to, start a circus because he can do things no other snails do. And so here we have a gorgeous, creepy, crawly circus. I mean, how much fun is that, right? So that is Henry the Snail by Katerina Makarova. And moving on to our next book. So did you enjoy the creepy crawlies? Because I got more. This is Caterpillars from Kevin McCloskey. You know Kevin, because Kevin is the author illustrator of the whole Toon Easy Reader Giggle and Learn series. These are easy reader nonfiction graphic novels. So we had The Real Poop on Pigeons and Ants Don't Wear Pants, and you get the idea. So many of these. Actually, there's one on snails there too. And here we learn about caterpillars and their whole evolution as they go from the caterpillar to their final iteration as being a butterfly almost all the time. And it's just informative and irreverent, and it's just so much fun. And kids who enjoy creepy crawlies are going to be completely mesmerized. And I bet you would learn something too if you read it. So that is Caterpillars from Kevin McCloskey. By the way, if you've ever seen him at a conference, he's the one who looks like Father Christmas. Moving on to our next book. Were you tempted to start counting those caterpillars? And if you have a hankering for math that comes with heaping helpings of fun, then Too Many Rabbits from Red Comet Press is the book for you. Kids pester their parent for a new pet, and they visit the pet store, and there's a special 2 rabbits for the price of 1. Well, I'm sure you can predict what happens because there is soon an explosion of rabbits. And they just go everywhere. I love the day glow orange. This, you can't really see it on the screen, but this orange is almost electric. And it's a counting book. It's a fun book. So much to discover in every page. It's one of those books that actually works even better on the second, third, fourth, 15th reading. You discover more things. There's actually a rabbit on every page that is wearing sunglasses. So fun to look for that. And of course, there are plenty of Easter eggs. Sorry, I had to go there. Throughout the book. So that is Too Many Rabbits with this cool Italian illustrator, right? So as loud as Too Many Rabbits may be, Walter finds his voice is at the other end of that spectrum. He's a painfully shy crocodile whose desire to stay submerged will resonate with bashful kids. When he sees his tortoise friend being bullied by some storks, and who knew that storks were so mean? He gathers his courage and opens his admittedly large mouth to tell them to stop messing with my friend. Walter truly does find his, okay, here we go. We see the storks being mean to his friend. And then, yes, there you go. Stop messing with my friend. And of course, you want to get the kids to yell that along with you. He knows he can speak out when he needs to. The gentle, quiet cover intrigues kids, and we've learned that it can be especially effective with those on the spectrum. This is a debut author illustrator who is well on her way to an amazing career. So that is also from Pajama Press. Walter Finds His Voice. Our next book, Mina. Mina has a voice, but she speaks in a language the other kids don't understand, and she doesn't understand them. This is an acclaimed book that it came out from Scotland, and it was on the 5 best books for children list from 5books.org, if you know that site. This is from a professor of multilingualism in children. And I love how she shows her lack of understanding and her growing confidence with the infusion of the color as the book progresses. So we understand what the impact of not being able to communicate is on her. And of course, at night, she dreams in color because that's in her language. Her first day of school reveals a black and white world, but as she recognizes objects, learns names, makes a friend, and finds ways to express herself, the world becomes more and more infused with color. And it's just a beautiful, glorious story that models welcoming for kids. And that is Mina Belongs Here. And yes, she does. So next up, do you remember the Arabic quilt published by Tilbury House? It won lots of awards, the Africana, the Arab American Children's Book Award, etc., and has become a model for inclusiveness in classrooms. Aya Khalil, the author of that book, was dismayed to learn it had been banned. And the great banned books bake sale is her response. Our heroine is proud to lead the way to the library until she discovers that the books that reflect the diversity of her school's community have been removed and from the shelves. And her creative and effective response helps makes the books available and accessible to her classmates again. Helpful Back Matter speaks to Aya's personal experience and provides context. And I wish we didn't need this book, but aren't we glad that we have it? So that is the Great Banned Books Bake Sale from Tilbury House. And lastly, we have a wordless picture book that was celebrated at Bologna Children's Book Fair last year. How did disagreements start and grow until they take over everything? More importantly, how do we find a way out again? We see an argument grow until it consumes everyone and everything in the dark abyss. A single person begins to build a way out and is joined until it becomes a balloon. See, it's swallowing up everyone. Builds a balloon that helps them sail away. The book can be used with children of all ages, even adults. And I am so grateful to Tapioca Stories for not only bringing this book, but also for bringing other books from South America, because we just don't see enough of those here. So that is what I have for you today. Please follow us at @PubSpotlight on your favorite social media platforms. Reach out to me at ellen@publisherspotlight.com. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ellen. We will now hear from Colette Perry. Colette has been a marketing associate with Charlesbridge for 4 years. She was born and raised in Portland, Oregon, and holds a bachelor's degree in communications and music from Simmons University. Colette lives in Boston with 3 friends and a very spoiled leopard gecko. Take it away, Colette.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to share our upcoming picture books with you. So let's dive right in. All About Nothing by Elizabeth Rush, illustrated by Elizabeth Goss, is a mindful meditation on nothingness that will change the way you see the world. What do you know about nothing? It's the empty space around you. It's the space between buildings in a city and words on a page. In art, it's called negative space. But nothing can be more than that. Nothing can be the pause right before something big happens, or a much-needed break in a busy day. You can have too much nothing, or not enough, or just the right amount. With gorgeous cut paper illustrations and simple lyrical text, All About Nothing reminds us that when you make room for nothing, you also create the potential for anything. This book is on sale April 4th. Now that we've enjoyed some minimalism, let's turn to another book that is all about the maximalism. Glitter Everywhere by Chris Barton, illustrated by Chaya Prabhat, answers all the questions you have ever had about glitter. How long have humans used glitter? Where did it come from? How is it made? Why does it stick to everything? Is it really bad for the environment? Find out all that and more with Chris Barton's signature sense of humor. Humans have always loved a little sparkle, and Glitter Everywhere serves up plenty of shimmer with Chaya Prabhat's gorgeous art and a foil stamp on the cover that, thankfully, will not shed glitter everywhere. Glitter Everywhere is on sale June 27th. Next up, we take a dive into a fan favorite of the animal kingdom with Not a Monster by Claudia Guadalupe Martinez, illustrated by Laura Gonzalez. In a canal on the edge of a city that was once a great empire, an egg is hatching. It's not a dragon egg or a sea serpent egg, it's an axolotl egg. These charismatic little amphibians may sometimes be called water monsters, but they're not monsters at all. They're a kind of salamander that never outgrows their gills and fins. With Spanish vocabulary and a clever color concept, this companion book to Not a Bean explores the life cycle of another iconic Mexican creature. There's only one natural habitat for axolotls, the canals of Xochimilco in Mexico City, and pollution is making it ever harder for amphibians and other wildlife to survive there. Fortunately, two amigos are on the job. These kids get in their chalupa and go fishing for trash with their neighbors, cleaning up the canals and looking for huevos de ajolote, a sign that there is hope for their little slice of paradise. Not a Monster, on sale May 9th, is perfect for young environmentalists and fans of amphibians, and a brilliant choice for incorporating Spanish language learning into lessons about science and nature. While we're in the area, let's talk about Border Crossings by Sneed B. Collard III, illustrated by Howard Gray. Night and day, thousands of animals cross and recross the border between the US and Mexico, like they have for thousands of years. To them, the border is a place that connects, not divides, bridging the gap between nations with some of the world's most unique ecosystems. But on this particular night, a young ocelot looking for new territory finds something he's never seen before. Where protective plants once stood, an ugly scar now stretches. As far as the eye can see, looms a wall. Sneed B. Collard III shows us how the border wall threatens dozens of rare and endangered species by cutting them off from food, water, and potential mates. If they can't slip through the bars or fly over, creatures ranging from the Sonoran pronghorn to the ferruginous pygmy owl are simply out of luck. But there is hope. The border wall isn't everywhere. Not yet. Back matter includes suggestions for activism and more information on the affected species and ecosystems, as well as a list of recommended books on the human cost of the border wall. Border Crossings is available now for readers eager to learn about the US-Mexico border ecosystem. Moving a little further afield to another fan favorite animal, Wombat by Philip Bunting is a fantastic laugh-out-loud book of wordplay based on this delightful marsupial. Wombats of all kinds abound: squarebat, roundbat, and longbat. Goofy illustrations and playful text make this a storytime favorite and a great choice for youngsters learning to read independently. Fans of llama-phones and hipopposites will adore Wombat and find themselves begging for more bats. Wombat is on sale June 13th. Let's skip ahead to the next. From the wildlife of Australia to the familiar shores of Maine, let's take a look at the life of an extraordinary trailblazer. The Lobster Lady by Alexandra Hinrichs, illustrated by Jamie Hogan, celebrates Virginia Oliver, who is still lobstering to this day at 102 years old. This book starts the same way every lobsterman's day starts, before dawn, when the rest of the world is asleep. Virginia goes to work with her son Max, a spry youngster in his 80s. Everyone at the docks knows Virginia. She is the oldest person lobstering in Maine. When someone asks Virginia why she's still out there, she remembers her childhood in the 1920s and 30s. She remembers spending the school year with her mainland relatives and the summer with her parents on an island called the Neck, where she first piloted a boat by herself at the age of 8. Women rarely worked the lobster boats back then, but she liked the work, and her father was happy to have the help. She remembers starting her own family and trying other jobs in a sardine cannery and a printing office before returning to the place she truly wants to be, the sea. Full of warm nostalgia and Mainer pride, this biography of a local legend will captivate and delight young readers. The Lobster Lady is on sale May 23rd. Next, let's talk about I Am Made of Mountains, also by Alexandra Hinrichs, illustrated by Vivian Minaker. You may think you know me from things you've seen and heard, but there's wilderness inside me, and don't just take my word. Come with me, I'll show you. Park by park and face by face, the landscapes I am made of, the treasures of each place. This is a really special one, you guys. From the volcanoes of Haleakala National Park in Hawaii, to the waterfalls of Yosemite, to the churning ocean at Acadia National Park in Maine, I Am Made of Mountains takes readers on a tour of America's great outdoors. What really stands out to me about this title is the way the poetic text emphasizes the connection between the person and the park. The park is not just a cool place we go to visit, it's an inextricable part of the ecosystem we live in. Alexandra Hinrichs also uses the images and sensory experiences of a park visit to explore a child's rich inner life, making this a great choice for expanding emotional literacy. Back matter gives important historical information about the National Park Service, including an honest, age-appropriate discussion of the forced removal of Native and low-income communities from what are now the Yosemite and Shenandoah National Parks. This lushly illustrated exploration of the U.S. National Park System is on sale May 16th. Fans of No Voice Too Small will be thrilled to see the sequel anthology, No World Too Big, from the editorial dream team of Lindsay Metcalf, Keela Dawson, and Jonette Bradley, illustrated by Jonette Bradley. This all-star poetry anthology profiles 12 young activists and 3 grassroots youth groups around the world fighting for climate justice. Leah Namagerwa planted hundreds of trees in Uganda. Autumn Peltier fought to protect her reservation's water in Canada. 4 seniors at the Green School in Bali converted their school's bus fleet to biodiesel, and that is just the beginning. More familiar poetry forms like free verse are represented, but you'll also see less common forms, like a Dokugin Renga from David Bowles, praising Mexica activist Xutezcatl Martinez. Sidebar text includes more information about each activist and tips for individual and collective action on climate change. All along, the message is clear. No world is too big and no voice too small to make a difference. No World Too Big is available now. And if your readers are ready for more eco-activism after reading No World Too Big, they will be captivated by Stand As Tall As the Trees by Patricia Walinga and Laura Resau, illustrated by Vanessa Jaramillo. Patricia Walinga grew up in Sarayaku, her Quechua village in the Amazon of Ecuador, hearing stories of the mystical Amazanga who protect the sacred forest. She traveled away from home for school and worked to spread her mother's traditional stories on the radio until she heard terrible news from home. Companies were destroying her people's forests to look for oil. They claimed the government had sold Quechua land. They didn't care that the forest was alive or that Pati's Pueblo relied on its strength. All of Sarayaku came together and protested. They danced and drummed and marched, traveled the world and found allies. At last, they defeated the oil companies, but their work was not done yet. Pati and a delegation of her people presented their case to the International Court of Human Rights in Costa Rica to protect their sacred forest for generations to come, and they won. This moving autobiographical story reminds readers of the importance of standing up for your home. Stand As Tall As the Trees is available simultaneously in English and Spanish on July 18th. I am so happy to be wrapping up today's presentation with another entry in the beloved Lola Reads series. Lola's Nana Bibi Comes to Visit by Anna McQuinn, illustrated by Rosalind Beardshaw. Lola is thrilled to learn that her Nana Bibi, her mommy's mommy, is coming all the way from Tanzania to visit. Nana Bibi will sleep in Lola's room, so she helps get the special blow-up bed ready for Lola to sleep on. Their visitor comes with a whirlwind of special experiences. Presents from far away, breakfast at a cafe with 3 generations, delicious mandazi donuts, Mommy writes down the recipe, and even a dance party. Nana Bibi also shares special stories with Lola about all the things she used to do with her grandmother when she was little. This adorable story of intergenerational bonds and the excitement of a special visit will especially resonate with grandparents who spent the pandemic far away from the youngest members of their family, and with grandchildren who may be meeting a geographically distant relative for the first time. Lola's Nana Bibi Comes to Visit is on sale April 11th. Thank you all for listening. Digital galleys and more information is available on our website at charlesbridge.com/webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to my colleague, Donna Spurlock, Director of Marketing, at dspurlock@charlesbridge.com. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Colette. Our next panelist is Erin Alladin. Erin is the Associate Editor at Pajama Press, where she has been reveling in literary children's books for more than a decade. Her own picture book, Outside You Notice, was published in 2021. Erin has a soft spot for nonfiction and owns too few bookshelves. Thank you for joining us, Erin.
Thank you very much. At Pajama Press, we prioritize books with real and enduring relevance for the needs of kids, families, librarians, and teachers. I've got a bunch ready for you today, so let's dive in. I know many of you have been waiting for Mies van Hout's best-selling emotions book, Happy, to come back into print, and I am happy to say that it will be available again on May 2nd. This is a fantastic book for emotional literacy, pairing pictures of the most expressive fish portraits you've ever seen with words describing their emotions. Friends is also returning on August 8th. This striking book normalizes the arc of everyday friendship that involves playing, fighting, making up, and building trust again. In the last few years, Bahram Rahman has emerged as an award-winning storyteller for ages 5 to 8, drawing from his experiences growing up during the previous Afghan Civil War and the first Taliban regime, and later coming to Canada as a refugee. The Library Bus won all sorts of honors, including the Middle East Book Award, and A Sky Blue Bench is an honor book for last year's ALA Schneider Family Book Award. In this book, a self-empowered girl named Arya returns to school after an accident with a new prosthetic leg and decides to build benches for herself and her classmates. Brahms' newest book, If You See a Bluebird, is coming on October 17th. It talks about the rarely told side of the refugee experience, what it's like to find a new meaning for home once you've settled in a new country. Next up, we have 4 great social emotional titles for ages 4 to 7. Xander Stays by Maureen Fergus and Scott Ritchie is coming on October 10th. It tackles the topic of trying something new with humor when Xander the Goose decides not to fly south for winter. Percy's Perfect Friend by Lana Button and Peggy Collins will be published on April 11th. It's about the skill of entering play and how toys help young children practice that skill. It's also one of those great collaborations of text and image that give you tons of understated humor. Ballerina by Rebecca Bender models growth mindset. This story about a dancing dachshund is relatable to anyone who struggles with sit and stay, but can succeed once they've found their own way to learn. Whistling for Angela by Robin Held and Peggy Collins is about open adoption and a special relationship that forms between Daniel, his baby sister Angela, and Angela's birth mother. Now, here are some great picture books about discovering the world around you. A Flower is a Friend by Frida Wyszynski and Karen Patko is publishing on May 2nd. This is nonfiction for ages 3 and up, and it introduces the concept of ecosystems in a novel way, as a series of friendships, in this case between flowers and the creatures that visit them. Kirkus's April issue includes a starred review for this title. I Love My City is middle grade nonfiction by France de Nera, Richard Adam, and Yves Dumont. It will be out next week in both paperback and hardcover. This is a big, robust nonfiction book exploring the civics and engineering that keep cities functioning, and it's packed with examples from urban centers all around the world. This is the Boat That Ben Built by science professional Jen Lynn Bailey and breakout illustrative talent Maggie Zhang is for ages 4 to 7. This is humorous fiction, but it's also an introduction to ecology, as Ben explores the river and encounters different animals. It includes generous back matter about the living and non-living parts of the Northern River ecosystem. And we have Finding Moose and Raven Rabbit Deer by Sue Farrell Haller and Jennifer Faria, who's a member of the Chippewas of Rama First Nation. This is fiction for ages 3 to 6, about a grandfather and grandson walking through the forest. It integrates Ojibwe-Moan vocabulary for the animals and plants they encounter, and this book was made in consultation with a knowledge keeper from Jennifer's clan. All 4 of these next global books are perfect for ages 4 to 7. The Light from My Menorah, we actually just delayed this to 2024, but you can look forward to it as a visual feast about Hanukkah and other festivals of light around the world. Community Soup by Alma Furlichin has been a mainstay of our list since 2013. It's a celebration of bounty and creative problem solving when a young Kenyan girl's goat breaks into the school vegetable plot. This 10th anniversary edition will come out in hardcover and paperback on June 6th. We've added 4 pages to the back matter, so it now includes prompts for activities related to gardening, cooking, collage art, communities around the world, and discussion questions. Room for More by the multi-award-winning Michelle Katarusman and Maggie Zhang is a picture book about welcoming strangers even when you're scared, and it's inspired by the true phenomenon of wildlife sheltering in wombat burrows during bushfires in Australia. So it's really relevant on both a literal and representative level. And Coco Magic by Sandra Bradley and the ever-popular illustrator Gabrielle Grimard is a book about empathy, kindness, and generosity. In 1920s Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, young Daniel secretly gifts a chocolate from his great-uncle's store to an unhappy classmate and initiates a new culture of generosity in his school. The book ends with an author's note about how children develop empathy. Miki Sato creates extraordinary tactile-looking collage art using paper, textiles, and hand embroidery. One of her first projects was the Weather Days collection written by Deborah Kerbel. Instead of the same old series about the seasons, we made weather books with great STEM connections that celebrate the activities preschoolers can do in sun, snow, wind, or rain. These books are available in both our toddler tough formats, so that's board books with extra heavy boards, and padded hardcovers with rounded corners, reinforced binding, and extra heavy pages that are perfect for transitioning from board books to regular picture books. And While You Sleep, written by Jennifer Maruno, was the hit of our fall 2023 list with multiple starred reviews. On the surface, this is a whimsical bedtime book for 2 to 5-year-olds in which a little girl's stuffed bunnies come alive at night to get the natural world ready for the next day by mending clouds, painting flowers, and charging rainbows. But because we're always mindful of combating eco-anxiety in our readership at any age, the story also contains a thread of reassurance that for very small children, their only responsibility to the world is to love it. Now, Dinosaurs and Vehicles are a big hit for the pre-K to K age group, and Dinos Driving by Lynn Leach and Scott Ritchie adds a layer of creative thinking with wacky combinations of dinos and vehicles and a closing spread of dinosaur facts. A Cow Said Boo by Lana Button and Alice Carter is a fantastic read aloud. I'm winding down here. A fantastic read aloud with a repeated refrain about a cow with a head cold who can only say boo. The ambience is great for a non-scary Halloween, but it's not explicitly a holiday book, so it can stick around all year. Each of our Big Little concept books combines something preschoolers love, like trains or construction trucks, with a concept that's developmentally important for them to practice. Animals Move combines baby animals and healthy active movement. Look Up High, Things That Fly uses all sorts of flying machines to spotlight prepositions like through, across, and between. Bear Has a Belly is big news right now because it's on the Texas 2x2 reading list, so we've just sent off for a hardcover reprint and a board book edition. It celebrates the body parts we have in common with different North American animals. And Let's Add Up uses imaginative play to explore the different ways of composing 10. For example, 8 cars plus 2 trucks equals 10 vehicles, or a race. These titles come in both of our Toddler Tough formats as well. Last of all, The Imaginary Alphabet by Sylvie Daigneault is a 64-page 9x12-inch showstopper. Sylvie spent the last 4 years on this masterpiece, and the preface gives you a taste of her passion for it. Inside, we find an A made of acorns and 2 agile alligators attempting an arabesque. These illustrations are done in pencil crayon, and then Sylvie enhanced them digitally so the colors really pop. I grew up with Graham Bass's Animalia, and this is the first alphabet book I've seen since then that casts the same kind of magic spell and invites you to spend hours studying the illustrations. The text mentions dizzy dinosaurs on this spread, but look closer and you'll find ducks, dandelions, daisies, and a dump truck full of diamonds too, and that's just at first glance. Time is short, so I'll just give you 2 more spreads. This is this image you will see on the cover, some fantastic ferrets. The book ends with a list of all the hidden things you can find, nearly 300 in all. And the end papers are printed with all 26 beautifully illuminated letters. I hope I've whetted your alphabetical appetite. The imaginary alphabet will be available on September 19th. And I'll leave you with a note that just about all of Pajama Press's school-age titles have teaching guides available to download for free, and you can find those at pajamapress.ca under resources or under the individual books. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Our final panelist today will be Meg Gardner. Meg is a senior editor at Flux and Jollyfish Press, the fiction imprints of North Star Editions, where she acquires children's fiction from picture books to young adult. She is the author of several children's nonfiction books and a graduate of the MFA in Creative Writing program at Antioch University, LA. Take it away, Meg.
Thank you so much, Booklist, for having me, and thanks to all the other presenters. You have added a ton of books to my to-be-read pile. So I'm here on behalf of North Star Editions, a publishing company dedicated to guiding readers toward a lifetime love of reading. North Star Editions offers fiction and nonfiction for children and young adults that inspires, informs, and entertains. I'm here specifically on behalf of Jollyfish Press, which is the picture book to middle grade imprint of North Star Editions. Jollyfish Press books range from light, humorous stories that broaden imaginations to heartfelt narratives that address difficult topics with nuance and care. Above all, Jollyfish Press books increase representation, position children as change makers, and celebrate a diversity of experiences. I'm excited to be here with you and to talk to you about 4 picture books we have releasing this year. So let's jump right in. Next. First up is Jack the Runaway Terrier by author-illustrator Jill McLean, and it's coming out very soon on April 4th. The tagline is "Small Dog, Big Adventure," and it's a charming tale of adventure, love, and redemption about a mischievous dog who bites off more than he can chew and the journey he takes to find his way home. Next. The book starts by introducing us to Jack, a fearless, curious dog who takes every chance he can to pursue adventure. So, of course, when the wind blows and the door opens wide, he seizes the moment and scampers outside. Next. From there, his journey takes him over rolling hills to a bustling town by a glittering sea, where he joins a crew of sailors and ventures out into the unknown. But storm clouds gather on the horizon, and soon that glittering sea turns solemn gray. Next. As the storm batters the ship, Jack wishes he was with his brother and owner and gains a new appreciation for the warmth and comfort of home. But he wonders if his family would even accept him again. Of course, we, the readers, get to see that his family is missing him and wanting him to be safe. From there, the story follows him on his journey back to the family that loves him. And in the final image, though I don't have it here, we see Jack and his brother and owner going on an adventure all together. And I think that's my favorite part of this book, that we get to see all the stages of Jack's adventure, the quest, the drama, and the return through sweet rhyming text and soft, warm illustrations. Next. So once again, this is Jack the Runaway Terrier, and this charming tale releases on April 4th. Next. Next up is The Most Important Animal of All by Penny Worms, illustrated by Hannah Bailey, and it's coming out on June 6th. This beautifully illustrated picture book gives children their first introduction to ecosystems and to how each animal is important in its own way. The premise: when 7 children are asked about which is the most important animal of all, they each advocate for their selection and learn about the key roles different animals play on Earth. Next. For example, one student, George, argues that elephants are the most important animal of all. On this spread, he shares fun facts about elephants and talks about the roles they play in their ecosystems, such as building watering holes that other animals can use. Next. And on this spread, George talks about the pathways that elephants create in the jungle for other animals to use, and the new plants that elephants help to grow by clearing out high branches and allowing sunlight to reach the forest floor. He also talks about the various uses of elephant poo, for example, how it spreads seeds to help plant life thrive. Other children in this book will argue on behalf of beavers, tigers, sharks, bats, krill, and bees, so a good mix of different kinds of animals. As with the elephant example, these children present several different ways that their animal is important to its ecosystem. And in the process, they introduce important concepts such as the food chain, pollination, predator-prey relationships, and more in language that is interesting and accessible to young learners. Reading this book, I found myself learning new things as well. And as you can see from these two spreads, this text includes a mix of gorgeous illustrations and vibrant photographs to accompany the facts that readers are learning. Next. The book also features extensive back matter that includes information on additional keystone species around the world, wolves, sea otters, corals, and sea stars, and the effects that different animals can have on ecosystems. The book also has further resources on the various animals featured in the book for readers who want to learn even more about them, and it includes a glossary of important terms and an index. Furthermore, the book had several content consultants to ensure the information is accurate and up to date, making this book a great resource for use in classrooms and libraries. And I especially love the idea of reading this book with young learners and inviting them to consider for themselves what they think is the most important animal of all. Next. So once again, this is The Most Important Animal of All, releasing June 6th. Next. Holly and the Pity Party by author Julian Frischhert with adorable illustrations by Leash Lee. In this book, an abandoned pit bull puppy roams the city in search of love and belonging while facing mistreatment and misconceptions about her breed. This sweet, charming tale delivers a message of anti-discrimination, inclusivity, and love through the eyes of a pit bull. Next. After her family realizes the puppy they adopted is a pit bull, Holly finds herself abandoned in the city. To make matters worse, many people are unwilling to help her because of misconceptions about her breed. Next. Holly's search for love and belonging takes her through the city to a dog park, where she sees other dogs playing with owners who love them. When it becomes clear that she won't be allowed inside the dog park, she embarks on a series of playful and earnest attempts to disguise herself like the other dogs to be able to get in. Next. These attempts include walking on stilts made out of sticks to mimic the Great Dane, rolling in the mud to look like the chocolate lab, and then running through dandelions so the white fluff sticks to her and makes her look like a white poodle. Next. These attempts, of course, don't work, and they result in her being taken to an animal shelter where, lo and behold, all the other dogs look like her. But fortunately for Holly, she got to the shelter just in time. Next. Because the shelter is hosting a fabulous pity party. At this adoption event, Holly learns that love and belonging are still possible as she finds her forever home. This adorable, heartwarming book is inspired by the author's experience of adopting the real-life Holly, and the dust jacket for the book features pictures and fun facts about the real pit bull puppy. As the author put it, he wrote this book to imagine a world in which all dog breeds are loved equally. What I especially love about this book is how it's easy to also draw connections to how humans might be treated differently because of stereotypes and prejudice. And for any reader who has ever felt left out or ignored or mistreated because of how they look or are categorized or stereotyped, this book delivers the message that they are worthy of love and belonging just as much as anyone else. I also want to take a moment to highlight the illustrator Leash Lee for beautifully capturing Holly's journey with her vibrant, joyful illustrations. Next. Once again, this is Holly and the Pity Party, releasing June 25th. And lastly, we have The Bear and Her Book by Frances Tostevin, illustrated by Sophia O'Connor, coming out on November 7th. And I'll just pause to say I am tickled pink that we saw earlier a book called Books Aren't for Bears, because here is one bear who would disagree. I don't have a picture here of the first spread, but I'll read the opening stanzas to you. A bear marched out on a moonlit night. Her fur was thick and her eyes were bright. She sniffed the bear and she licked a paw. She loved her home, but she wanted more. And then she says, The world is big and there's much to see, and a bear must go where she wants to be. And a bear as curious as me longs to gaze at the starlit sea. Next. With that introduction, a book-loving bear sets off to see the world. She takes one special thing with her, her bear's big book of being wise. On her journey, she meets different animals, each needing her help, and she uses her book to find the information and ideas she needs to be able to help them. Most importantly, she discovers that books aren't just brilliant at fixing problems, they can also help you make new friends and lead you to all sorts of magical places. The sweet rhyming text and lush, gorgeous illustrations affirm the wonder and magic of books, a feeling that I'm sure all of us here can relate to. And I won't spoil the surprise of where the book ends up on her journey, but I will say that the book ends with a twist that will charm and delight any book lover. Next. So once again, this is The Bear and Her Book, releasing November 7th. Next. And that is it from me. So thank you so much on behalf of Jellyfish Press and North Star Editions. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to us at sales@northstareditions.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Meg. And another big thank you to all of today's wonderful panelists. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's video recording, title list, slide presentation, and a certificate of completion. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. Are you heading to TLA? Then stop by booth number 2434 for free magazines, buttons, and to learn about our new magazine, Booklist Reader. Plus, we'll be sharing our booth with our friends at Library Reads. Swing by to learn about how you can participate in their staff picks program and pick up some free swag. We'll see you there. And speaking of Booklist Reader, have you heard? Our new book browsing guide offering reading recommendations to patrons of all ages is now available in print. Go to booklistonline.com to find out how you can order print copies for distribution at your library. Already subscribed? Booklist subscribers can share issues digitally for free. Visit our website for more details and to see examples of how libraries are sharing Booklist Reader with their patrons. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. One more huge thank you to our panelists and to our sponsors, Capstone, Publisher Spotlight, Charlesbridge Publishing, Pajama Press, and North Star Editions. This concludes today's webinar.